Welcome back to Audio 101. This time, a little bit different, just a quick Q&A. So let's jump to it. Okay, so first question, how can I solo a dropout without automating individual tracks? Well, the easiest thing you can do in FL, click there, make unique. Now it's its own pattern. Go through, delete some stuff, take any part you don't need, delete it straight out of there, and you have a dropout. You don't have to automate anything and you're good. If you're doing this with audio, you could always select the things that you don't need and choose the mute tool, which is here, and just mute that instrument. Pretty quick. 2. How can I mix clearly without sidechaining? Well, if you know where your instruments are going to sit, make sure there's nothing in the way. So you mix your main instruments, the main sound, the backbone of your track to sound awesome. And then everything else can take whatever space is left over. Simple as that. Just EQ. 2. Do sound cards matter? That is a pretty interesting topic because the best sound card is an audio interface. There's not really a sound card built for mixing, and if there are, it kind of stops working better at a certain point. So would you say, like, let's say a Focusrite Scarlett 2i4, is that better than like the best top dollar sound card? Yes, pretty much. So do sound cards matter? If you are using the built-in cheapo one that comes with a computer, sometimes it may not be showing you the full picture, which means you're not hearing the correct image. You know, it's a little bit. So moving on. Which is better, FL Studio stock plugins or other VSTs? Well, to keep it simple, they're both good. The only thing in FL I absolutely hate, they're compressors. The compressors in FL, pretty terrible. So you probably see all these engineers and they have like piles and piles of stuff. Why do they have that? Because those are the tools they like using. When they load it up, they don't have to twist 20 knobs to get things done. They just know how it sounds good from the start and you just quickly move in. So depending on your workflow, stock plugins may be better. For me, I know I use the stock EQ the most. Do I use the stock compressors? No. So just find what works for you. Okay, next question. How can I make a soft lead sound more aggressive with just mixing? So I have this synth sound and I'm gonna load it in. There it is. And now I'm gonna route it through here. I'm gonna turn off all the other stuff. I'll keep the drums on just because. So here it is. It's okay. How can you make it bigger without, changing the actual synth? Saturation. So I'm going to load up Softube saturation knob. This is a must have for most people. So watch this. It's just thicker. Another one that's also free and pretty awesome. Nasty VCS. I use this on every single mix. It's the best. So I usually load up preamp hype or classic, depending on what I'm going for. If I want clean, I go clean. If I want like a more rock sound or traditional classic, if I want to go like hype, I go hype. So let's go hype. So here we go. Here's off. Now I'm going to turn it on. Now let's turn the saturation on too. Now everything off. So yes, it did get louder, but saturation adds harmonics, which makes the sound more punchy, more gritty. It cuts through a little bit easier. So try out some saturation. Saturation knob is made by Softube and is free. Nasty VCS is made by, I believe, Variety of Sound. Let's check. Yeah, Variety of Sound. It's free. Grab it. It's awesome. Okay. How can I make 808s hit harder? Saturation. So step one, high pass it to where you don't have any stuff that you can't hear or you don't need in your mix. Saturate. Get everything out of your low end that's not the 808 or the kick. The more room it has to be loud and just thick, the more loud and thick it can be in the mix. Pretty simple. Okay, so the next question, and I have a similar one, are how do I mix vocals and how do you mix dual vocals? I'm going to do a little suite that's going to be recording vocals, and it's going to cover pretty much everything from tracking the vocals to mixing the vocals. And it's going to be pretty awesome. So I'm not going to cover all that. How do you mix dual vocals? The same way you would mix regular vocals. You mix them like lead instruments. And when you have two going on at the same time, who's taking lead and who's taking rhythm? Whoever's taking lead gets the full spectrum. Whoever's taking background, they kind of work in the space that the others are not. So you kind of just shape it around it. So if you have this frequency right here on the lead, you're going to want to take that out of the secondary vocal, the one that's not the lead. If they other one's here, give it there and take it away from the other one. So you're going to puzzle piece them together. Pretty simple. So mixing in mono, that is the next question. So right here, this is your stereo separation. When it's all the way to the right like this, it's in mono. When it's not, it's in stereo. Pretty simple. So the reason you want to mix in mono is people that don't have a full stereo system, they're going to be hearing your mix on a whole bunch of different stuff. And if your mix sounds punchy and dope in mono, then it's going to sound great in stereo. So a good example is when you play music over your phone, have you ever listened to like a song and you're like, it sounds so good over speakers, but it's awful on my phone? It's because it's not really a mono track. Like it wasn't mixed to sound good in mono. And, it happens. So check mono. Don't worry about mixing in mono. Just check and make sure that nothing's getting super quiet or nothing's getting super loud. Make sure your balance is correct. So next, how can I make things less harsh? Check out the last EQ video I posted, the quick tip, the EQ. I don't know what it's called, but it covers how to make things less harsh. It talks about certain frequencies that are just, they seem to be problem areas consistently in almost every mix that I've worked with and that a lot of people have worked with. So check it out. And the next one is, can you tell me how to master a song? No. I am not a professional mastering engineer. I can do faux mastering, which is what I call actually a lot of people call it dirty mastering. It's when you make your track loud, but you don't worry about making it commercially loud. And the easiest way for me to explain it is mastering is a science. There's a lot of technical stuff that I don't know, so I'm not going to address that. But it's making sure you can clean up the frequencies, make sure everything's level, make sure nothing's poking out. So EQ. Sometimes you may want to put a little bit of reverb, very, very, very light reverb, just to give it a little bit more roundness and to fill in the gaps. That'll give you a little bit more volume. Just be very careful, because if you put it like too long of a reverb, too short of a reverb, it can really throw off the feel. So be very careful. And compression. Some people like to use limiters. Some people like to use compressors. Just think of it like bending wood. If you want to make wood curve, you have to lightly bend it little by little by little. That's how you work compressors. You got your first compressor, maybe taking off a decibel. Second compressor, maybe taking off a decibel. Third compressor, maybe taking off a decibel. So little by little, you're shaving off like a little bit more. And it's so gentle that you shouldn't hear it just slapping it down. It'll slowly bend it into place. So there's a lot of components to mastering. Don't come to me for mastering. I could do mastering. It's just not professional quality. So that's my advice. Anyways, that is all the questions I have for this Q&A. Video's probably a little bit long, but hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, you want to talk about video suggestions, or you want me to cover something that from this Q&A a little bit more in depth, I can do a video on it. Just let me know in the comments, or, send me a message on Facebook if you know who I am. Anyways, this is Nick Hanslip. This was Audio 101. Peace.